Hey there, folks. It's race season. You know what that means, right? It is officially be prepared for any kind of weather season, right? So, race days are amazing and awesome, but if you're not dressed right, they can be a pain in the neck. They can also be dangerous. Let's talk about it. Okay, so the first reality is everybody's, of course, different. What works great for one person might not work for another person. Just pay attention to the general advice and find something that works for you. So we all live in Utah. We've all heard the jokes about the weather and how often it changes. Of course, on race day, this is a reality and we need to plan for it. We need to expect that we're going to start the day freezing and end the day sweating. One piece of good general advice is to stay warm before the race, right? So show up in your thickest, wooliest, most comfy, ridiculous jacket and wear that right up until the moment it's time to start your race. Staying warm is about more than just comfort. When you get really cold, your reflexes slow down and your precision starts to suffer. A course that you pre-rode in an afternoon and that was just fine might actually be really difficult and dangerous for you on a cold morning. Also, tendons and muscles don't work as well when they're cold. Knees are especially vulnerable. It's actually much easier to damage them when they're cold. Another bit of general advice, and this goes for everything: bike adjustments, clothing, food, everything. Don't experiment on race day. Don't do it, right? If there's something you want to try it out well before the race, days, weeks before the race, to make sure that it really works for you. If you try it first time on race day, you might be in trouble. As the immortal David Lee Roth once said, "It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's how good you look." Well, I don't know how important looking a certain way is on race day, but definitely the clothing that you wear does matter. So let's talk about that. We need to find a good balance. We don't want to wear so much that we can't move and we're going to overheat, but at the same time, we need to wear enough that we're going to be comfortable and safe. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be really freezing for it to be important for you to have some sort of protection. Arm and leg warmers are great for moderately cool days. They're nice because they're adjustable. You can just pull them on or off or whatever you need to do. You can stuff them in those back pockets of your jersey. You always wondered what those back pockets were for, huh? Now, in a pinch, you can even go grab your sister's long socks and turn them into arm and leg warmers. Just don't tell Mom. When the weather's colder, a great thing to do is to add a base layer. You want to make sure that they're thin and that they're made of technical fabric so that they wick the sweat away. Whatever you do, don't just throw on some old cotton shirt, because the last thing you want is for it to get all soaked with sweat and then to cling to you as a cold, nasty thing for the whole rest of the race. On those colder days, you might want to add some head warmth. So there's two types of things that can go around your neck or over your head. Those work pretty well. Also, the skull caps work pretty well. Just try them out first to make sure it's not going to overheat you. Now, things that are full-faced or even your favorite hoodie that you might put under your helmet, those are tricky because they're really hard to adjust during the race and you can overheat with those things really easy. So be careful. So gloves are important. We all have our favorite gloves, right? And some of us even like long finger gloves, but just because it's a full finger glove does not mean that it's actually going to protect you when it's cold. There are cold weather gloves and they're different. They actually protect you from the wind and cold. So you do not want your fingers to get frozen and fall off, right? So it's a good idea to invest in some decent gloves. Okay, so remember, when it's really cold, you want to dress in clothing that is adjustable so that you can kind of take it on or off easily while you're riding. You want to avoid those cottons. You want to keep yourself warm, but not too warm. Now let's go ahead and talk about just the last few things to remember during your cold weather ride. Now, you know your coach is always telling you to warm up properly before a ride, right, or before a race. It's even more important on these cold days. You got to get the blood flowing to your extremities, and you got to time it just right so that you don't warm up and then cool back down again before you actually start. So time it and do a good job. Hydration, right? You might not feel thirsty on your ride, and this is tricky business because you've got to remember to drink even though you may not feel thirsty. It is very important to stay hydrated always, regardless of the weather. And most important of all, rule number 1, have fun. Rule number 2, be safe. You guys are awesome. We'll see you out there.